After years of low inventory and housing supply and multiple offers situations, accelerated appreciation, and low interest rates, the market has definitely shifted. And if you haven't seen it by now, then you should probably look a little bit closer because it's definitely in full force. And you're not alone if you haven't, because most homeowners haven't noticed the changes. And that's something that we often find when we meet with somebody for the first time when they're looking to sell their home. The number of active listings is over 1,700, nearing 1,800, which month over month is a 9% increase, which is a pretty big increase for a month over month snapshot. In addition to that, in some markets, home values are actually coming down, where in other markets, home values are actually increasing at a rapid amount. So it's very location specific and driven by many different factors. For example, if you look at all the barrier islands, for the most part, they're second homes to people. And sure, there are some permanent residents, but a lot of them are second homes, which means that when the economy is great and people are flush with money, they go out and make these unnecessary purchases like a second home on the beach that is definitely not necessary to have in your life. But when the money allows, you might go ahead and do that. Well, a lot of people aren't feeling like they can do that right now just because of the uncertainty in the market. And so that market has slowed down quite a bit. Some other things that have happened in those barrier islands is they're cutting back on the amount of Airbnb permits in specific locations, which means that a lot of people that were renting their home on Airbnb are not allowed to anymore. And so that cash flow has stopped. And they bought that home with the intentions of having it cash flow so it could pay for itself. But now that they're not able to, there are a lot of homes coming up on the market for sale, and there's fewer buyers that are interested in purchasing there because they can't get an Airbnb permit. Now in some other areas, if you look at the 526 band around Charleston and look all within that and just outside of it all the way up through 95, those markets are still red hot because you have real people, real home buyers and real home sellers that are doing well, moving to the area, and they want to buy here. So you have people locally that are moving around, and that's why this part of the market is still doing very, very well. And then you get into the very far outskirts, and I'm talking far outskirts, and that's when the market is really hot. Those markets tend to do much better. And now that the market isn't as hot, it's starting to pull back a little bit. Now, they're not necessarily losing value. In some locations they are, but for the most part, they're trending well. So in some areas, we're seeing appreciation in the 10 to 15% range. Some areas we're seeing it in the 0 to 7% range, and some we're seeing where they're actually losing value. So if you have more questions on specific locations, I can send you some information that'll break down each location and what the number of home sale growth or decline has been, in addition to home value growth or decline also. In addition to that, home sales are lower. They're actually, in comparison to 2013, we're year to date slightly behind where we were in 2013 for home sales. So as you can imagine, the population growth has been tremendous in over a decade. There's still a lot of people moving here, yet the market has fewer home sales than back then. We're personally not selling fewer homes. We're actually up 20% year over year. That's a little humble brag. But anyway, back to the market. The other thing that's really impacting things is those interest rates that everyone's aware of. You know, we're between 6 to 7% right now, whereas, 4 or 5 years ago, rates were closer to 3 to 5%, making things much more affordable. Some other things that have happened in the landscape is with a lot of the hurricanes that have been around the country, we've been very fortunate here, but the way that those policies work and that the insurance companies hedge their bet when they have to pay out a lot of deductibles and claims across the country, it impacts us here too. So having said that, we've all probably seen our insurance policies creep up over time, which is making housing more unaffordable. So these are some things that are happening. Despite the fact that interest rates are high, there's fewer home sales and so on, there's still very low inventory. So in most markets, the amount of inventory is between 1 month and 4 months. Anything below 5 to 6 months of inventory is still a seller's market. Now there's some that are around 5 to 6 months of inventory and some that are actually a buyer's market. But for the most part, we're still in the seller's market. And that's why you still see that appreciation that I mentioned. And so again, it's very location dependent. Now, a lot of people think that they can just throw the home in the market at any given price and it's gonna sell, and that's certainly not the case. What we have found is if you price correctly, you're selling within 7 days and at asking price or above. If you overprice your home, it's taking you over 80 days to sell, and you're selling frequently for 5 to 10% below what you could have if you would have priced your home correctly to begin with. So this is a very important thing because as we see right now, the average days on market in our area is 70 days on market, which is a lot more than the average of 5 days on market about 4 years ago. But it's largely because of how many people are overpricing their home. And that's why you see all these price reductions in the market. And that's why you see the days on market continuing to rack up, which would make you think that it's a bad housing market for a seller and a scary place to buy for a buyer. However, that's certainly not the case. What it is that a lot of home sellers are not educated in what's happening in the market and what their home value is. And so they're overshooting the market. Buyers are deciding to not pay way over price. And in turn, what they're having to do is the sellers are staying in the market for a longer period of time, and they're chasing the market and reducing the price to get it to where buyers are willing to spend for their home. Now, that doesn't mean that the market's declining when you see these price reductions. It just means that you see a lot of sellers that miss the mark. Because again, home prices in our area are up on average about 8%, which is significant. So it's still a really good market to own real estate. I love buying real estate in Charleston, even today, and even in the outskirts. We're gonna see a tremendous amount of growth in the future. What savvy buyers are doing right now is they're buying and they're finding these homes that are on the market for many, many days on market, and they're getting really good prices on these homes because those sellers are starting to feel desperate. Those sellers, when those days on market rack up, are actually going to sell for less than they could have if they would have priced correctly. So it's a good opportunity if you're a buyer to go get a good deal on a home right now and take advantage of those sellers that miss the market. The other thing too is, we have this special incentive for financing interest rates where we can get you rates anywhere between 3 and 5% depending on your personal situation and the home itself, where we can help you make that home way more affordable too. And for sellers, it's still a great time to sell. Again, it's a seller's market in probably 80% of the markets, which means that you have the upper hand in negotiations and can probably get multiple offers on your home and sell for above asking price with the right marketing strategy. And so it's actually a confusing market because there's a lot of headlines and a lot of information that you can see out there. But the truth in it is, it's a great time to buy and it's also a great time to sell. And it's rare to have a market where you can do both of those. The other thing that's fascinating right now is new construction. Builders have bought so much land in this area, and a lot of them are in the volume game of just building and selling homes and not necessarily trying to maximize profits on each home. So what that means is there are some really good incentives that we know about that we can hook you up with these home builders, and these incentives always change. They're usually tied to homes in particular and not necessarily across everything in the neighborhood. So if you reach out to us, we can share with you how you can save $50,000, $70,000, $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 on a new construction home today and get special rates with good financing incentives if you call us, because we consistently update the list of new construction home incentives and what you can find where. So if you call us, we can easily tell you and point you in the right direction of where to save the most amount of money. This has been incredible for investors also and very savvy homeowners. Now, ultimately, what this means for you is that it's a good time to buy or sell, but just remember, if you're a home seller, it's not just about pricing, it's about the marketing and the exposure. Most realtors have the same 3P strategy, which is to put your home in the MLS, put a sign in the ground, and pray that your home sells. Oftentimes, they fail miserably. Your days on market rack up, and most homes are actually failing to sell. In today's world, about 60% of the homes in the market are not selling at all. So the marketing strategy and pricing strategy combined are critical. Our goal is to make sure that you get in front of every single potential home buyer that's in the market today. And the way that we do that is we deploy the same exact marketing strategy that Fortune 500 companies use to make their brand a household name. And by deploying that same marketing strategy on your home, we're able to make your home a household name amongst all the home buyers in the area. That way we can generate more leads for your home. Once we get those leads, we're able to prospect and set more appointments for your home, which is going to increase the likelihood of you getting multiple offers and selling for top dollar. So it's the combination of all those efforts together that get you multiple offers and top dollar for your home. It's not pricing alone. So make sure that you're discussing and learning about all the different marketing strategies out there. And I can promise you one thing and guarantee you that nobody else in this market has anything that is anywhere similar to our marketing strategy to make sure that you can get your home sold for top dollar. If you have any questions about any of this information and you'd like to learn more, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can find us at davefriedmanteam.com or call the number on the screen. Again, it's davefriedmanteam.com or just call the number on the screen. Thank you so much and hope you have a great day.